The story begins with a man talking to his daughter. He tells her that his wife is going to divorce him. The poor man asks the girl to talk to her mother to change her mind. He added that he thought the woman was crazy. She talks nonsense and keeps repeating the same thing. The girl says that this is not surprising, because he has a talent for doing this. The father did not expect his daughter to side with her mother. It was like a bolt from the blue for him. But the girl was not going to calm down. She said that she was one of those who made him bankrupt. Her husband warned her that she should not behave like that around him. After all, she had his blood in her. To which the daughter replied that she was glad to get rid of her and to give up her father forever. He looked at his daughter carefully. The father justified himself. He said that as the head of the family, he was just trying to protect her and preserve his family, and it should have been obvious from his actions. His daughter asked if he had felt anything similar when he slept with the Marquise. Although the Marquis was a very good friend of her mother's, no matter how close the relationship between the women was, it was not appropriate for even good friends to share a man. The man was embarrassed, but he still tried to defend himself. He said that this time he tried to do everything possible to preserve his family. If his wife had not broken off relations with the emperor that time, he would not have had to do such things. But his daughter was not going to listen to him. She said it was too late to change anything. So she would just leave, and he could go away. They would not talk anymore. Rage took over the man. He grabbed the girl by the neck and began to strangle her. He accompanied this with swearing and threats. The daughter could not believe that her father was capable of such a thing. She did not feel anything personal towards him. And he was squeezing the poor woman's throat tighter and tighter. Meanwhile, her father explained that although she was the Duke's bride, she should not forget that she was raised in this house, and her husband had put a lot of effort into it. My daughter was not confused. She said that in that case, she shouldn't have had her and started raising her. But she continued to ask how it felt to be destroyed by someone who was not supposed to be there. The door to the room opened wide. The silhouette of a man appeared there. It was impossible to see him, but my father loosened his grip for a moment. He began to guess who had come to his house and for what purpose. There was a snap of fingers in the air. An unknown force filled the room. The air seemed to become thicker. The atmosphere became electrified. The man who dared to strangle his daughter was thrown back by a strong blow. He did not even have time to realize what had happened. And the girl, before losing consciousness, thought gratefully of her savior. The father fell to the floor a few meters away from the place where he was abusing the girl. The blow knocked all the air out of his lungs and almost made him lose consciousness. But he still gathered his strength. He was not going to lose. The man looked around carefully. He could guess who the guest of his mansion was. A young man stood over him. He was holding his chin and looking at him curiously. The young man asked why his father-in-law was on the floor. The only question that interested the man now was how the young man had done it. He guessed what he was going to be asked. He raised his fingers to his face and was about to demonstrate his abilities once again. A light wave of his fingers sent the man flying high into the air. He was frightened because everything happened suddenly and unexpectedly. But the poor man was even more interested in how he would land. The floor was so far away. But he fell in the usual way. The recent hunter turned into a victim. Now he was dominated by his son-in-law, who had completely mastered the situation and had an advantage over his father-in-law. And now he was interested in something. The man said that such behavior was very rude. It was not proper for an aristocrat and a nobleman to treat someone of his own rank like that. But the young man asked if the title of count hadn't been given to the man long ago. A dark cat jumped onto the man's shoulder. He stroked it and spoke to it gently. The man could not hear what they were talking about, but the cat said that from now on he was the new head of the Collins family, and his name was Meowth Collins. The former owner of the house began to crawl across the floor to the wall. He certainly did not expect the cat to start talking. And even more so, he didn't think that the animal would start calling him Count and treating him so arrogantly. The cat said he would put the title to better use. The man was scared. He thought he was possessed by something. The father crawled on the floor in front of his daughter and her husband. There was no point in apologizing after what he had done. The young man kissed the bride on the neck. He noticed that her father had left bruises on her neck and skin while he was strangling her. This made him angry, and he promised to repay the count for such cruel treatment. The young man looked at the man menacingly. He promised to take revenge on him for all the insults and abuse of his daughter, but it would not happen right away. The young couple had some things to discuss and clarify for themselves. Suddenly, a black hand made of dark material grabbed the Count by the neck and began to strangle him. He tried to escape from the death grip. Circles ran in front of his eyes, and his consciousness gradually began to fade. The darkness was coming. The young man said that this time he would spare the man, but at the same time he should not make him angry anymore. After all, the fiancé of the Count's daughter had just begun to master his powers, and he could accidentally injure or kill. The daughter stood next to her father, who was sitting on his knees and trying to force more air into his chest. The girl asked her fiancé, whose name was Kaden, not to kill her father, but to leave some fun for her. A group of men entered the room through the open door. The first of them, who was holding a stick, said that he had come at her call and was ready to follow the orders of the new owner of the house and estate. The girl said that her father was unwell for some unknown reason, and that she should call Benjamin to make sure that the old Count was not in danger. The servant replied that the doctor was already there. Meanwhile, the doctor was helping the Count to get up from the floor. The old man tried to tell the servant something and asked him to listen to him. The former owner told him about a cat that spoke to him and how it flew around the room with a wave of its hand. The man listened to him carefully and said that it looked as if the old man had a mental illness, and it seems that it is really madness. The Count tried to tell Benjamin that he was wrong and mistaken. They began to take my father out of the room. He resisted and said that he was fine, but the doctor was firm in his intentions. The butler asked what the young lady's further orders would be. The lady was crying. She said that she wanted her father not to have anything terrible happen to him, so she was willing to have him tied up and take care of his well-being. Benjamin replied that he understood her perfectly and would do everything necessary. My father heard these words. He began to break out and scream loudly. The man called his daughter bad names and curses and threatened to kill her. He emphasized that he was not crazy, but that it was all part of his daughter's plan. The Count shouted that he had trusted the doctor, and he had treated him so meanly, but no one else heard what he had to say. His mouth was covered with a rag and tied so that he could not scream or talk. The girl approached her father, who was exhausted. He just looked ahead of him with wide open eyes. The man began to realize the seriousness of his situation. The daughter complained that she was very sorry for what had happened. Tears were streaming down her cheeks, but her expression was joyful and triumphant. She openly rejoiced that she had gotten rid of her father and had gotten even with him for all her mother's suffering and her own torment. The daughter sent her father to an insane asylum. The girl's name was Isabella Leonard. She felt neither guilt nor sadness about what she had done to her father. The lady resembled a beautiful devil or demon, reveling in victory and triumph over a traitor. It all started with a confrontation with her father and the moment of her death at his hands. It happened on a very cool summer day. The girl's brother was holding her body by the hair and saying that her face would never be the same. The poor girl, all beaten up, asked her brother, whose name was Astor, why he was treating her so cruelly. After all, her father had long ago disowned her and deprived her of any right to inherit. The young man continued to kick the girl. She had no way to escape. The boy said that there could be no other attitude to a person with imperial blood in his veins, because he was dangerous. The only thing that bothered the boy was that the girl was recognized by her father as his heir. In other words, she was to blame for being born and becoming an obstacle on Astor's path to power and the influence of the future ruler. The precious daughter of His Highness the Emperor was the mother of the girl who was now being abused by her brother. The woman's name was Lily Leonard. The woman fell in love with her daughter's father and became pregnant by him. As a result, she got married against the will of the emperor. The naive wife believed that her husband's intentions were honest, but he actually had his own plans for her. He was only interested in the benefits he would receive from this marriage and in advancing his ambitions. A man in a hoodie brought another woman or girl to the prison, where Astor abused his sister. The girl begged her brother to stop. The woman asked him to spare the child, but to kill her. Her daughter's life was more precious. Astor wanted to kill his sister. Now he stood before the women he was going to destroy in order to become the future emperor. Nothing was stopping him on his way to this, and nothing could change his intentions. The young man sarcastically said that he was very impressed by the power of a mother's love, but the woman already realized that she would not beg him. After all her pleas and requests would be rejected and unheard by him in the end. The boy put a bottle of red liquid in front of the woman. He said that he had heard rumors that it was with a similar vial that she had entered the bedroom of His Highness the Emperor with unknown intentions. The pretender to the Emperor's throne asked if she really wanted to poison His Highness. The woman replied that this would only play into Aster's hands, so she was definitely not going to do that, so as not to help the scoundrel. He didn't like the tone in which everything was said. He asked her if she was talking to him too boldly, but the prisoner simply remained silent. She did not consider it necessary to answer his idiotic questions. Meanwhile, the woman said that the vial actually contained an antidote to the poison, so now His Highness is most likely poisoned. The man could be on the verge of death and a quick but martyrdom. Aster said that the daughter was to drink the contents of the vial. If she survived, they would both be pardoned, since they had not intended anything bad against His Highness, and they would both be released. The mother tried to stop the young man. She said that even a healthy person who did not use poison would die from the antidote. So the approach he proposed was not the right way to handle the situation. The daughter took the bottle with the antidote. She was ready to take the drug in order to free herself and her mother from the captivity of this madman. Perhaps they would be able to get out of this place and survive. Before that, the girl asked not to touch her mother. After all, she would take revenge if even one hair fell from her head. Aster replied that everything now depended on her. He did not care until the Emperor appointed an heir. The young man was haunted by the thought that the Emperor seemed to be waiting for the appearance of his daughter, who would be much more talented than his son. But the main thing was the desire to finally end the war with the demons through negotiations. Aster was going to kill his sister and her mother, so he ordered them to drink the entire contents of the drug. But the mother said that she was ready to drink instead of her daughter. No one expected anything like that from her. The daughter tried to stop her mother from committing a rash act. She did not think that the drug created by the woman to save His Majesty from poisoning would be her own death and the end of everything. But in fact, it was a very well-planned death penalty for those who displeased the prince. Never before had the young man healed in such a way. His heart was filled with pride at the sight of a drop of blood on the girl's lips. The crowd was shouting. They demanded death for those responsible for the attempted murder of the Emperor. Aster spread rumors and gossip that it was his mistress and her daughter who wanted to kill him in order to sign a peace with the demons and sell people. The next prince proclaimed to the people that the girl had been secretly preparing to overthrow the current regime. The Duke of Blake was her accomplice and ally. Their goal was to make the empire submit to the demons. The young man showed everyone a parchment detailing the results of the investigation. It stated that Princess Lily and her daughter were preparing an insidious plan to kill members of the ruler's family to seize power. Thus, the board concluded that the princess and her daughter would be burned at the stake. There could be no forgiveness for such a trick. The girl thought that her mother had risked her life for these people. In fact, the woman went through a lot of suffering and trials on her way to reconciling people and demons on a just basis. Although the emperor himself did not want this and did not share the idea. Suddenly, the count stood in front of the scaffold. The daughter thought that her father would now come to their defense, but he told the crowd in front of him that his wife and daughter had been deceived by demons and led to this situation. The man was holding a torch. He said he would punish them himself for falling prey to the demons and accepting their persuasion, because in doing so, his family had become demons' traitors. The crowd shouted and asked for a swift and brutal execution of the traitors and traitors. People loudly shouted insults at the guilty defendants and praised the count for his loyalty and honesty to his subjects. The daughter turned to her father with the last of her strength. She said that he had played the role of a loving family man and a loyal citizen of his empire very well. But why he would do something like this now is insane. The man replied that he was actually using his wife. For him, the main thing was not love and family, but power and authority, which he had to take possession of and become the ruler of the entire state, overtaking all other contenders. At the last moment, the girl thought that her mother should have stayed with the emperor. After all, if she had the power and influence now, she would have dealt with him in a fair way and destroyed the scoundrel. At the last moment, the girl was thinking about what would have happened if her mother hadn't gotten pregnant and given birth to a daughter. Would she then have been able to uncover her husband's cunning plan and become the real ruler of a powerful state? The daughter thought that she would do anything to break up her brother and father. She's ready to get rid of the dirty blood that flows in her veins at any cost. To renounce her father and destroy him is a cherished desire. At the last moment of her earthly existence, the girl was ready to give up her soul in order to get a second chance. But dark smoke and darkness obscured her view. Death was creeping up with quiet cat-like steps. A voice called her out of oblivion. The girl was in a kind of emptiness. Someone was speaking to her and warning her that she had made 3 dangerous and rather stupid wishes that she should be careful about. Isabella asked where she was and who she was talking to. The entity replied that it was called many things, but many people tend to call it a demon because it is difficult for mortals to realize something like it. A woman was standing in front of the frightened girl who was sitting on her knees. The stranger looked more like a ghost. It was very difficult to catch her outline and blurry figure, but even so, her beauty and harmony of features were visible. The demon said that the girl herself had called her and promised her something for a favor. So now it was time to make the first of 3 wishes. Lily did not hesitate. She bowed low to the entity and asked it to turn back time. The stranger asked her how to deal with revenge in this case. The girl told her that it was too personal, so she was ready to tear her father and brother to pieces with her own hands, to destroy their lives. The demon liked Lily's words and her confidence and determination. So, with a gesture that showed great power, the woman gave the command to the spatio-temporal magic to begin to realize her plans. The stranger said she liked this girl. After all, injustice, grief, and suffering have made her worse than any demon. To begin with, the woman will familiarize Lily with her mother's story and certain moments. Lily was holding a book in her hands. It was called A Tragic Story. It said that Lily Leonard was a tragic person. After all, she gave up power and everything connected with it for the sake of love. But the unexpected happened. Lily's friend and husband were up to no good together behind her back. The Count cheated on his wife, and the friend tried to drown her and build her own happiness in her place. Lily was deceived and used. Meanwhile, Astor used his position to become the next ruler of the empire. He was not short-sighted, but his stubbornness and lack of respect for others, devaluing other people's lives, helped him. And in order to become even closer to power, Lily's husband killed her and her daughter himself. This was supposed to confirm his position and intentions regarding his loyalty to the new emperor, who was still only in theory. The girl was shocked to learn the truth. She asked the demon how far back he could send her to the past. The woman replied that it would be exactly 3 years. After all, she would not have enough mana for more. Isabella was happy to make the deal. She was ready to offer her soul, but the demon said she would ask for something else in return. She told him about the demon lord's son and his stay in the magic tower. The young man stayed there for quite a long time, so she asked the demon to help her get him out of there and show him the beautiful existence and its benefits. The young man would also become her faithful friend and assistant. Kaden Blake was a symbol of peace and a half-breed who was not well respected by other demons and entities. Decades ago, a peace treaty was signed between the human world and the demons, which resulted in a political marriage. After that, sometime later, the hero of the empire, Ethan Blake, had a son. His mother was the demon lord of Hull Lucifer. The boy was named Kaden. He was born to become the master of the North Tower. The society did not accept the kid. Everyone around him pointed fingers and laughed at him, but it was his red eyes that caused him the most trouble. They gave him away as the son of a demon and a human, a useless creature. There was no place for the boy anywhere. He felt good only on the battlefield, where he confronted monsters and monsters from other worlds. That's how he was able to become famous as a great warrior and defender of people. But still, people remained ungrateful to him. Despite all his efforts to protect the population from monsters and demons, he was considered something like a mad dog. He remained the son of a demon who killed demons. But when Kaden turned 18, the demonic blood that had been dormant in the boy caused an extremely powerful outbreak of mana. The boy was very frightened, but eventually he realized something. There was only one way to stabilize Kaden's mana. He had to enter into a contract with a human and thus receive a human soul and become a full-fledged demon like his mother, who was waiting for her son to return. But the young man decided that he did not want to be a demon. He held on and did not give up. He didn't want to become part of a selfish race that had stained itself with sin. Kaden was not going to sign a contract and become an entity. If an ordinary human magician had such a surge of magical mana, he would not last even a year. The young man had been resisting temptation for a long time. His life would have seemed like a torment to many people. 8 years of his life were a living hell. To the last, the boy tried to hold back and not become a demon that would destroy thousands of people and an entire continent with its power. Instead, he could not stand the tension and simply exploded in a bright flash. The title of his story was The Magic Dog of the North, and it described everything that the demon Zabella told him about. To save his life, Kaden has to become a demon, and for this he needs a contract partner with a soul. The girl asked why she was given the role. The woman replied that she disliked the girl very much and wanted to kill Zabella. That's why she chose her. The girl seemed arrogant, but smart. But the demon said that the girl has a very strong aura. Her mana glows brightly, which would make her ideal for a contract with a strong demon like Kaden. It was her will that he had to break and subdue. The desire of the female demon was for the young man to crush all the weaklings and become the supreme ruler. His role was to become the king of demons and rule the lower world with a firm hand. All the girl had to do was pull him out of the tower and force him to sign a contract. And the young man would find his way to the throne and the crown of the demon king on his own, instinctively. Nothing more was required of Zabella. The girl thought about it. It seemed pointless to her to free a demon who was on the verge of self-destruction and try to help him. But since he was against his relatives, it was even to her advantage. Zabella agreed to get Kaden out. But she had one condition for this. She asked to allow the half-demon to travel with her to the past. The girl did not hide the fact that she was going to use him. The woman agreed, but she allowed him to take him only for 1 year, after which he was to be returned to the world of demons and entities. Zabella promised that she would be very punctual, and that was the end of it. Finally, the demon gave the girl a ring. It was supposed to protect the girl from demonic energy and to be her last defense against Kaden and his power. Zabella wanted to hear how to use it, but she didn't have time. The woman said only that she did not want the boy to die. That would be very bad and not fair to the boy himself. The girl realized that she would become a mere tool, but revenge was worth it. Zabella found herself on the balcony of a magic tower. She had landed badly, so she was not very happy about this beginning. In general, the demon should not have demonstrated his strength and power in such a way. A handsome, dark-haired young man stood in front of the girl. He was holding a sword that was as black as the night. Kaden's appearance was breathtaking, and Zabella even forgot why she had come here. He put a sword to Zabella's throat. He asked how the girl dared to come to his property without really knowing who he was, but the guest told him everything she had heard about him. Kaden asked why she was not afraid. The girl bowed low and replied that she also knew that if an opponent or someone else has no mana, Kaden kills that character or person. Zabella introduced herself as Lady Leonard. The young man asked if she was from the royal family. He had never heard of the emperor having a daughter before, but the girl replied that she just didn't want to use her father's name. He wondered how a girl who was neither a monster nor a demon had gotten into his tower. After all, he hadn't felt any trace of her using mana either, so her appearance here raised many questions. This meant only that she had been sent by his father. However, the fate of Zabella's father interested the young man even more. Judging by the way she spoke of him, he was a scoundrel and in some way betrayed her. Suddenly, Kaden exposed his body and held the girl close to him. He said that in that case, they could start. After all, if his father sent the girl here, he was definitely worried about whether he would have a worthy heir. The demon lord was getting closer to his victim. The girl thought she knew Kaden as a mad dog, but she didn't know that right now he was in the middle of a wild bout and ready to mate. But the girl decided to play her role to the end. She said that she was ready to begin the birth of the heir to the ruler of the lower worlds. The young man was confused. He definitely did not expect such an answer. And Zabella said that a deal was needed. In return, she asked him to become her husband, and from then on, she will fulfill her marital duty every day or at the request of her lawful husband. So now is the moment of truth for both of them. All those present who suddenly found themselves at the Northern Magic Tower late at night could hear a strange dialogue. The guy said that he could satisfy his carnal lust with anyone he wanted, and his guest promised him much more. The girl gently stroked his face. She asked about his relationship to Princess Hela Lucifer and his hatred of monsters and demons. After all, everyone knew about his insanity when he smelled the manna of demons. Zabella said that she had guessed that the young man wanted to meet the demoness, but she never came. Even though at first he behaved like an obedient boy and tried to be good for her. Before him stood hordes of Monsar and mutants. Kaden asked Hela to show herself to him. He didn't expect her to be tender or loving like a mother, so he would be happy if she just appeared to him. The guy was in pain. Spasms ran through his body, but he kept on his feet. Kaden asked the woman to be quiet. She promised to do so, but hinted that she knew the feeling all too well. The girl offered Kaden to become her husband for a year. In return, she would help him meet his mother. The young man was interested, but the emotional breakdown and mana inside him made him tired and exhausted. The poor man fell to the floor right in front of the girl. She was frightened, but it was obvious that the man had simply lost consciousness. So he would come to in time, and now she had the opportunity to get acquainted with his home. People thanked Kaden, despite his origins, for opening hunting on the northern outskirts of the property. The young man confronted demons and monsters, which helped the local population to harvest their crops. The guy did not expect such a turn of events. After all, he was more used to accusations and suspicions, and many people made fun of him and spread gossip and rumors against him, and these people just thanked him and smiled at him. But the demonic blood did not let him rest. It manifested itself even through certain bodily transformations. Large black wings grew from his back, and horns crowned his head. The young man was transformed into a creature. And when the mana took over again, there was a huge, powerful explosion. Nothing remained of the blacksmith's family where he was visiting. This dream has been haunting him for a very long time and does not give him peace. Zabella stood over the boy who was resting. She was waiting for him to wake up. After all, it is vital for her to get to the past to save herself and her mother from the plans of her father and his henchmen. A cat came up to the girl. She was very grateful to the animal for showing her the way to the bedroom. Without any help, Zabella could have simply gotten lost in the labyrinths and intertwining rooms of the mansion. The boy began to breathe heavily and with effort. The guest thought about how she had the courage to suggest something like that to a mad dog, the son of a demon lord who destroyed monsters and monsters. Zabella also thought that if she were to marry, it would not be for love, but for a real handsome man. And Kaden had a very attractive and handsome appearance. She was attracted to this young man like a magnet. The girl carefully examined the body available to her, took the temperature, and thought it was time to button up her shirt. But Kaden suddenly and unexpectedly sat up on the bed. He asked what the guest had done to him. The girl handed him a glass of the brew. She explained that it was periwinkle tincture and it had calming properties, helped him relax and keep him in good shape. The young man did not refuse because he felt terrible. I could see that he was a little hesitant, but Zabella told him to trust her. It made no sense for her to poison him. On the contrary, she was going to need him very much in the near future. He did not understand her direct look. The guest also said that he was only grateful to his cat for saving him. If the cat hadn't shown him the way to the bedroom, Kaden would be lying on the cold floor of the balcony instead of in his crib, and he would certainly have gotten sick. The boy called the animal to him, but it demonstratively preferred the girl. The cat jumped into her arms and felt very good there. Kaden was outraged by this behavior of the cat, which had never done this before. The young man asked his new friend how she was going to organize his meeting with his mother. Zabella told him that the title of Demon Lord is not inherited, but is acquired by force and held in the same way. And now Kaden will make a deal with the girl and become the most powerful. This way, Hela will pay attention to her son. Their meeting will be simply inevitable. And then the young man has every chance of becoming a demon lord. He did not really want to become one of this cursed race. He thought that he should not show weakness of spirit in such circumstances. After all these years, he had resisted the temptation to become a demon and join these creatures. But the guest reminded him that he could not turn a blind eye to the fact that he was overwhelmed by mana. After all, in doing so, he not only endangers himself, but can destroy the whole world he fought so hard for and defended. Ordinary mages can only withstand the flow of mana for a year. This guy has been able to do it for almost 5 years. This only shows that the volume of mana is very large and its power is enormous. But when it fails, all the northern lands will turn into a wasteland. Thousands of citizens will die. Innocent people, their families, and everything they lived for would die and disappear from the face of the earth. Kaden did not want that to happen. He told the girl that everything was very similar to his dream. But he didn't want to feel like that anymore, so he would agree to the transformation if the lives of ordinary people depended on it. He didn't want to be selfish. And Zabella spoke about how the demon queen once gave up her own son just to take over the demon throne. What a blow it would be for her now that her son would depose her. She added that if she were Kaden, she would definitely try to do something. Otherwise, he would just burn out and fail over time. He started asking how she planned to use it and what the deal was. Isabella told us about her father and his actions. She also added that she wants to take revenge on him in the bloodiest way possible. And it is very painful for her to realize that there is a part of his blood in her that she wants to get rid of. The girl tells about her plan to make her mother an empress, but the second prince can get in the way of this plan, and he must be neutralized. That is, Isabella needs the support of the Blake family and their protection. So now she will ask Kaden to become her support. When her father dreams of becoming the empress's husband, his daughter will push him into the very depths of hell. The boy liked the course of these thoughts and their development. Isabella asked if it was true that Kaden needed a bride for his future as a demon lord. The girl said that this way they would last about a year and then divorce. The boyfriend liked the idea and said that she could start performing her duties as a bride right away. It was a bit unexpected for her, and she was even afraid of it and embarrassed. The young man wanted to kiss his bride, but she said that now was not the time. She needed to seal her contract with the demon prince. But the Kai interrupted the conversation. He said that Kaden had spent exactly 5 years on his first contract. There was an animal in the girl's arms. It was a small black cat. It was he who spoke to the prince and asked if he would finally cope with the task he had set for him. The boy did not expect his pet to speak. The cat said his name was Mauser, and he was the most gifted demon among the lower demons of the entire demon world. It was strange for the girl to hear something about the hierarchy in the demon world, so she asked the interlocutors directly. Keith explained that the lower demons act as business partners, but at the same time, the partners can choose a higher demon at their discretion and in their own interests. Mauser chose Kaden, hoping for his talents. But unfortunately, the demon prince himself needed such a long time to make his first deal in 5 years. Of course, for a demon, this is not a long time, but the wait was annoying. The cat did not think he would have to wait, but now he is happy to be petted and hugged, and higher demons cannot exist without a lower partner. So Mauser hopes for a fruitful cooperation. Kaden was sure that it was he who'd been playing with and raising his pet. But Mauser assured him that it was the lower demon who had always accompanied and trained his higher partner. Kitty jumped on the table and said it was time to seal the deal. He was glad that his client had finally come to a solution to his main issue. He didn't want to delay any longer and invited him to start. He used magic to activate the pentagram and invited Isabella and Kaden to the middle of the symbol. Mauser warned that a donation would be required, and the girl had to be patient. With a quick, subtle movement, the lower demon leapt at the girl and clawed at her. Blood flowed from the wound. The beloved warned that the blood should be distributed evenly over the pentagram and not interfere with the magic. The cat began to actively recite the spell and tell them that from now on, the partners were obliged to support each other and help in every way possible, because the good of each of them depended on their joint actions. Isabella woke up at the Collins family estate. She had a severe headache, and a caring servant put a compress on her forehead to help her headache go away. The girl did not know how she got here. The familiar smell left no other options as to where the poor girl was. Her mother was sitting next to her. She looked very tired, because she hadn't left her daughter's bedside all night, who was sick and was always tossing and turning in a fever. Isabella hugged her mother joyfully. She could not believe she was seeing her alive and well again. The woman asked her daughter what had happened to her, and why she was acting so strangely, as if she hadn't seen her for a long time. The mother said that her daughter must have had a bad dream. She confirmed her guess. So now you should think about the fact that dreams are always the opposite of reality. That is, you should expect something good in the near future. The woman began to explain that her daughter had been feeling unwell since the evening and had a fever. The mother was with her all the time. The father was angry and said that she should kick the cat out of the room so that it wouldn't disturb her. Lily explained that the estate was in turmoil, and she just couldn't throw such a handsome dog out on the street. So she brought him to her daughter's room. Now the girl had to name him. Isabella did not hesitate. Meowth got a name. The woman said with a smile that she would always be on Isabella's side, no matter what happened. The girl recalled events from her past life. It was there that a mother gave up everything for the sake of her daughter's life and her salvation. This time, Isabella promised herself that she would protect her mother from all the evil that was to come their way, even if it cost her everything, and she must not forget about her assistant from the demon world. The next day, in the morning, Isabella read the note her mother had left on her bed. It said that the woman had gone to pray and left her daughter her favorite meal, and the girl simply had no right to miss breakfast. Isabella remembered her childhood. It was then that Lily first cooked beef stew for her when she was sick. Since then, this dish has become the girl's favorite, and very often she asked her mom to cook it. A maid came into the room and brought food for the girl. She asked to serve the food directly to her bed. The woman was not pleased. She did not have a very pleasant appearance, and her expression was not friendly. Overcoming herself, Tilda put on a pleasant expression and came to her mistress to feed her. Isabella saw that the bowl was not the same as her mother had prepared for her, but some strange concoction. Satisfied that she had made the girl uncomfortable, Tilda said that Mrs. Richmond had cooked the dish with her own hands, and the girl should not eat beef because it is very harmful to her figure. Isabella told the servants to take the dish with them. It smelled bad, almost stank, and it was simply impossible to eat. The poor aristocrat almost threw up from this dish. The maid asked indignantly what kind of smell she was talking about. She had never smelled anything like it. The girl replied that she did not have to tell or explain anything to the clueless maid. She had to leave her room immediately. Mrs. Richmond came into the room. She asked who dared to say that the dish she had cooked herself was very stinky and smelled bad. The girl was glad that this person had come in. Katrina Richmond has been Lily's friend since childhood, but now she has become her father's mistress, and together with him she has plotted evil against the girl and her mother. This person wanted to take possession of everything they owned. Isabella asked the Marquise how her husband was feeling. She wondered if the poor man knew that his wife was always in the Count's house from the very morning. The woman replied that he was fine, but in her mind she was angry with the girl. The girl was not going to stop talking. She also asked how the young gentleman was feeling. After all, he must have known that his mother was cheating on his father with another man. The son was quick and smart, so he must have suspected something. Isabella explained to the intruders that Lily had gone to church to pray for her daughter's recovery, so they could feel free to leave until the owner of the estate arrived. Katrina thought she had missed her friend. The girl asked if her guest really went to church in these clothes. She answered that the main thing is not the clothes, but the mood and humility of the person who goes to offer prayers for themselves and their relatives. Katrina asked why Isabella couldn't eat a meal prepared especially for her. Does the bad smell spoil everything? Tilda's daughter also couldn't eat anything at one time, and then it turned out that she was just pregnant. Richmond said that the girl's mother had gotten pregnant before her wedding, so she shouldn't have started following in Lily's footsteps. After all, there were special conditions for such a step back then. But no one will feel sorry for Isabella. The girl finally answered. She believed that she would have a much better and easier life in every way than the Marquis, who was raising a child, a cuckoo. Katrina was angry, but she had nothing to say in her defense. The Marquis married Katrina, who was his third wife, at the age of 50, so he could hardly have become a good father so quickly, and Mrs. Richmond gave birth to a son and became the full owner of the house. But soon gossip began to spread that the Marquis himself, due to his age, could not have children, and the child born to the Marquess was not the aristocrat's own son. The boy was becoming more and more unlike his father every day. Everyone was surprised by the fact that the previous two wives could not give birth to the Marquis's heir, and the young wife, almost 20 years younger, immediately gave birth to a child and became a young mother. Isabella was very sorry for the Marquis, who was bedridden due to illness and could not control what was happening in his house, and his wife was beginning to take over for herself and her son. Katrina told the girl that she shouldn't meddle in her own affairs and that she should be careful with her words. Mrs. Richmond cares about the girl only because she loves and respects her mother. Suddenly, the plate fell out of the girl's hands. The Marquise was angry, but she couldn't show her emotions in someone else's house in front of its young mistress. Meanwhile, the girl said that everything about the Marquise was like Lily. Even their perfume and mannerisms were the same. Catherine tried her best to imitate her successful friend's behavior. Isabella asked if Richmond was doing it on purpose or if it was an accident. Their conversation was interrupted by Isabella's father. The man always came at the most inopportune moments. He tried to be neat and formally dressed almost always, because his title obliged him to behave accordingly. Even on the day he burned his daughter and wife, the man did not back down from his principles, but now he did not appear in a very suitable form. He did not look very well groomed. The man got too close to Miss Richmond. He was hoping that he hadn't been caught out all this time and would act accordingly. Katrina began to complain about her daughter to her husband. Isabella thought that if in her past life she had paid more attention to everything around her, instead of locking herself in a room with books, she would have been able to save her mother and herself from death. The girl began to cry. She was trying to draw attention to herself and distract her father from thinking too much. Isabella showed her hand, which had a burn on it. The plate of stew was very hot, so she dropped it. Tilda stood up to defend her mistress, Catherine. The servant replied that the girl had thrown the stew away on purpose and dropped the plate. And Mrs. Marquise rarely cooked for anyone. This time she wanted to help the girl recover. The Count asked the maid what she was doing here, and whether she even realized where she was. The man asked if she remembered his orders. Tilda realized that she had definitely done something wrong this time. The aristocrat took a swing and hit the maid. He ordered her never to put herself above his orders again. He ordered her not to do anything that would harm the girl. After all, her beauty was a valuable asset. Isabella realized that she was a commodity for her father. It is thanks to her that he definitely wants to rise higher among the nobility. To reveal her true position, she poured the stew on her hand. Catherine left with the Count. He told his daughter that he would soon call a doctor to see her. The girl thanked him politely. Now she should have followed her father and Mrs. Richmond, but she would not do so. Isabella ordered Tilda to follow her. The maid was already behaving very calmly and submissively. After all, she risked the young lady's wrath. The maid was afraid that she would be beaten and abused. The Count's daughter took off all her clothes, and now she was showing off the beauty of her young girlish body. Now she would definitely not talk about her influence. She just showed Tilda that she was taking a risk by insulting her. Isabella said she didn't care much about her body, but the old Count would definitely not be happy if his daughter had scratches or bruises. After all, this would make the girl's marketable appearance much worse. The girl came closer to Tilda. She told the servant that there was something even worse than empty beatings. Gossiping about her unwanted and early pregnancy was the height of absurdity and a dangerous game. Isabella recalled when the servants, before the mother and daughter burned, had gossiped among the crowd about Isabella's unusual connection with the demon successor. This was how she was able to become pregnant by the enemy of man. The Count's daughter grabbed the maid by the neck and began to squeeze. When her father finds out that his treasure has been defamed, he will quickly destroy Tilda. He will nail her head to the gate of the estate for all to see. The woman fell to the floor. She asked to be forgiven, but Isabella told her not to dare to treat her like that again, even on Katrina Richmond's orders. It was quite easy and convincing to play the victim. Finally, the girl let the maid go. She ordered her to tell other normal maids to prepare a bath for her. After all, so much dirt and filth had fallen on the poor Count's daughter since the morning. But before that, she ordered the water to be pink, and Tilda will always knock on the door before she is ordered to enter. Otherwise, her hands will hang on the fence behind the estate as a lesson for everyone else. Of course, the woman could have disobeyed her mistress and been faithful to Richmond Katrina, but in that case, she would have been able to look at her grandson and not touch him. After all, it is difficult to do this without hands and without a body part. Isabella was taking a bath. 2 young girls were helping her with this. They combed the young lady's hair and rubbed her body with balms. Bella herself was thinking that it was time to build a hierarchy. The same rules applied in the animal world and in the human world, so now the Count's daughter ordered them to help cool the opuk under cold running water. The girls obeyed her orders with lightning speed. The maids were very young. They were amazed by the beauty of their mistress. So they had long wanted to come to the estate to take care of her in every way possible and to be closer to such perfect beauty, to learn something. The girls surrounded the bathroom in a circle and said they would be happy to be called to the mistress for a bath or other spa treatments. Isabella really liked this attention. It made her feel confident. In the office, the father asked his daughter how she felt and how she was doing. Isabella told him that the doctor had reported a normal state of physical health, so the Count said that she was free this time. But suddenly he started talking about the academy. He definitely won't change his mind. In her past life, she wanted to become a doctor. So she disobeyed her father's orders and went to study medicine. Isabella said that she definitely had nothing against his will. In fact, she still had the knowledge and memories from her past life, so there was no need to follow the well-trodden path of her former life again. Instead, she asked the Count to prepare her debut. This was not what he had expected to hear, and he did not want to bring up the subject of the academy anymore, so he said he would think about it. He was surprised that after all the trouble of studying, she changed her mind. The daughter replied that the morning's event had changed some of her views. She felt that her father needed her, so she would stay to do his bidding. She was eager to be of service to the Collins family and bring them glory. The Count was delighted that his daughter took his position. He promised that he would find a suitable match for her, but the girl replied that she could handle it herself. After all, she wanted to choose her own husband. The Count asked if she had fallen in love with any of the romantics or any of the court singers. After all, if we are talking about the court aristocrats, the Don Juans, she might as well not even try. Such a relationship would only tarnish her honor. The girl told me that some of her father's vassals had started to feud. The reason was that in their younger years, they had dated each other's wives and husbands. So this situation made many people angry. After Baroness Phrase chose her current husband, Viscount Lightman thought that he no longer wanted to live under such conditions. But he decided to get married anyway. The Viscountess found out about his previous relationship. The Count asked her how she knew all this. The girl replied that it was simply her attentiveness and her favorite pastime, reading. She had learned to draw conclusions after analyzing what she had read, so it was easy for her to do. Every day she carefully read the tabloids and all the yellow press available to her. It was from there that she learned the details of the personal lives of very influential people. So her knowledge base was quite broad. Isabella knew about all the gossip and rumors of the royal court. She understood perfectly well why some courtiers were closer to the ruler, and what they were hiding from each other, how they were building intrigues around the throne. So in choosing her life partner, the girl will make the right choice. Isabella will get a man who will not only have nobility and external beauty, but will also have status and be quite influential. The daughter flattered her father, saying that since he had raised her and educated her in his own way, a simple man would not suit her. Her standards were quite high and unrealistic for most applicants. And if she fails to find a man her father would like, he is free to look for a match for his daughter on his own. The man was completely satisfied with this option. He expected to benefit in any case. His only request was that she not be involved in any gossip or intrigue. To do this, the Earl would assign a companion to his daughter, but Isabella warned him that she did not want the Marquis of Richmond by her side. When asked why she treated Katrina this way, the girl replied that she thought the woman was crazy and out of her mind. Her company was unpleasant for the girl and unwelcome for the Count's daughter. And the girl's last argument was that this woman had been rubbing elbows with the upper echelons of the aristocracy for a long time, but had never achieved anything. The father was amazed at the direction of his daughter's thoughts, which had never happened before. Everyone around her knew perfectly well that Katrina was trying to gain the trust of the second prince, but she hadn't achieved anything yet. She did not arouse any particular interest in the young man, and she behaved as usual. The girl asked if she could go with her mother to the palace. After all, her appearance among the court could be a step towards rapprochement with His Imperial Majesty. The man was surprised at the ways to attract attention. When Lily returned, her daughter told her about her reluctance to go to the academy. The woman was surprised. She did not expect her daughter to give up her plan so easily. But Isabella explained the situation. The girl thought long and hard about coming up with a more or less suitable reason. She couldn't think of anything better than to say that she fell in love at first sight. The mother was interested in the personality of her daughter's chosen one. The woman was shocked by what she heard. And to top it all off, Isabella said that she didn't really know anything about her chosen one. She had been fooled by his handsome appearance. She didn't even know his name for sure. My daughter asked me to help find him for his next debut. Now was the right time for such measures. Lily could not recognize her daughter. She had never talked about such things before. The maid knocked on the door. She said that someone was looking for Mrs. Isabella. She did not name him, but he was a young, rather handsome man, more like a young boy. The girl could guess who the stranger was. Kaden Blake was sitting in a chair in the room. He said that his wife had probably forgotten how impatient he was, and he had wanted to see Isabella for a long time. He just couldn't wait to join her. The young man greeted his fiancée's mother. He called the woman close to the position of emperor, but Lily asked him to call her simply Mrs. Collins. She was impressed by the young man. Isabella watched him closely. Lily asked when they had last seen each other. She remembered that the boy was only 6 years old. The woman asked how he was feeling. He told her that his mana flow had stabilized and improved. But what worried her the most was why the boy wanted her daughter. The young man assured her that he just wanted to meet her and talk. Lily wanted to know when they had met before. The young man asked me to relax, because in fact he had come here because of the cat. It turned out that Lily had taken home someone else's cat. Kaden told how the animal had escaped from his carriage, just as he forgot to close the door. But the boy was not angry. After all, the woman might not have known that the animal was a pet. Besides, cats were real masters of disguise. The conversation confused everyone present, and the prince looked at his soulmate. There came a time when Kaden asked the woman to leave them alone with their daughter, because he had a confidential conversation to the last. He also asked her to take the cat with her, because he was scared and didn't like to be around many people. The mother agreed. Finally, she asked her daughter to be polite to the guest. After all, she also liked the young man. The woman was sure that he would be a good match for her daughter, so she was hoping for something. Kaden immediately hugged the girl. He said he missed her very much because he hadn't seen his beloved for a long time, even though it was only on paper in the contract, but Bella didn't want to act like a couple in love. Only a few days passed, and the girl noticed that the prince also arrived without a carriage. He replied that he did not need to use transportation if he could fly to this place much faster as an ordinary demon. Kaden snapped his fingers, and at his command, a bouquet of red roses appeared in the hands of the count's daughter. He added that if he had known it would be so nice, he would have agreed to the contract much sooner and faster. The young man said he was here on business. These words frightened Bella. She immediately remembered his eagerness to fulfill his marital duty. But the young man reassured her, because she had already begun to make excuses. But in reality, Kaden thought she was going to the bathroom to bathe Meowth. The girl could breathe a sigh of relief. She confirmed that the young man in the tower hadn't bathed the cat because his fur was dirty. The young man bent low to his beloved. He was about to kiss her, but the girl assured him that he shouldn't, because someone could come into the room and see what they were doing here on their first meeting. Bella realized that Kaden could hear her thoughts. He looked at her carefully and replied that no one had ever treated him like that before. Even for a demon, it was very rude and inappropriate. And it was unusual. Bella's fiancé sat down in a chair and asked if it was true that she had already made someone cry. It was a worthy act for the bride of a demon prince. The girl realized that Meowth had told her about it. Kaden asked me not to be angry with my pet. It was his duty as a lower demon to tell his main partner about such things. The girl asked him not to mock her. It was time to discuss plans for the future. The girl told us about her plan to make her debut in the near future. Her father already knew about it, and they had a conversation about it in the morning, so Kaden also needs to be there. People needed to see them together as often as possible. The scandal was going to break out soon. People were very much confused by the couple of the count's daughter. The groom agreed with her, but he was also interested in when the girl was planning to finally get married. Bella said that he had to wait for proposals from other men to turn them down. The young man was offended to hear such things, even though he knew it was an act, but for some reason it hurt his feelings. The girl asked him to think of it as another step towards the dramatic ending of the novel. He agreed. After all, he was the main actor, and he had to behave accordingly. This surprised Bella because he was different in the tower. Now she wondered why he had become so obedient. Kaden easily read her thoughts and asked if she liked this change in him, so if he was good, he asked her to pet him. Bella felt like his mistress. She replied that there was no need for such intimacy now, but the young man thought otherwise. He wanted to be rewarded for his good behavior, so he was already putting his head out there. Bella had an image of her former dog. It was this animal that the boy now looked like. He asked her to praise him with words as well. The girl said that he was a very good boy and obedient. The young man read the thoughts of Lulu, the dog, so he pulled his bride to him and asked her who Lulu was. He created a scene of jealousy on purpose because the maids were sure to be watching them and would start gossip. Bella remembered and told me about her dog. She loved him very much, and they actually had a very close relationship. The prince asked if it was really so difficult to control your thoughts about everything close to your heart. The girl asked him not to misunderstand her, but his behavior really reminded her of her former dog. But inadvertently, Bella said that she really liked Kaden's appearance. Bella asked him not to be too proud of what he heard in his address. It was a real pleasure to look at him. The young man wondered if she hadn't guessed that he already knew and understood her. From the very beginning of the meeting, this girl had only resentment and a desire for revenge. That's why she agreed to the deal with the demon ruler. And then he did not know much about her and her true motives. The young man marveled at her intelligence, but he just wanted to test her reaction and patience to learn more about the girl as a person. He was very interested in her despite the contractual agreement, and Meowth would be a good excuse. Kaden said he would leave the pet to the girl on purpose. The girl was not very happy about this prospect. They both realized that the demon would follow her and pass on information to its real master. The next morning, the Count's daughter met with Geoffrey Richmond, the young Mr. Richmond, at the Collins estate. The young man behaved very frankly and ill-mannered. The girl replied that she was not very happy to see him. Bella was reading a book and asked her brother not to come into her room like that anymore. He replied that he did not respect her personal space very much. This guy was the only descendant and heir to the Marquis of Richmond. They spent their entire childhood together and grew up very close to each other. Bella advised him to be more careful and cautious. After all, he could have lost his hands that way. The daughter of a count should not have been teaching the son of a marquis. A few days after Kaden's visit, she was receiving spa treatments from her maids, who simply admired her beauty. Now they were talking about how the young guest had looked at her in a special way. The girls were just delighted at what a beautiful couple they could make. Despite the gossip, Mr. Kaden was very handsome and attractive, and they were both sure that he would often return to the lady's estate. That's why Bella started to use different care products frequently since then, although it was very tiring and difficult for her. But beauty required sacrifices from the girl in order to be attractive. The Richmond's son assured me that he did not want to visit her himself, and the boy said that he was uncomfortable in her company because the girl turned out to be completely different. She asked what they were talking about now. The young man told her about her desire to make her debut and find a husband. The girl understood what he was trying to do. The boy asked her how long ago she had started thinking about taking care of her beauty and good looks. The girl assured him that it was none of his business. She asked him to get out of her room. He assured her that she should not think that he was positioning himself appropriately as a future gentleman and husband. Finally, he got them to listen to him and handed the box to the girl. She looked at the gift with surprise. She wondered what it was and what she would need it for. The boy assured her that it was nothing interesting. He reminded her that good shoes can lead to a good place, and since she is going to eventually leave her parents' house, let her reach a very good and suitable place and be happy. The girl looked at the gift and was delighted with it, but now she felt strange. Richmond said that he expected her to behave in a way that was more fearful and more thoughtful and well-mannered. The boy took the box with the gift. The girl was confused. She hadn't expected her childhood friend to be so ill-mannered and to grow up to be such a fool, but he had something else in mind, something Bella did not expect. The young man knelt down in front of the girl and tried on a shoe on her foot. He asked if the shoe was the right size for the girl. If not, he would be happy to find a bigger or smaller size. Just let the friend know. Bella smiled and said that they were just wonderful. The young man was silent. The girl asked him why he was silent, because it was not the proper behavior for a well-mannered son of a marquis. He replied that he was sure that the girl had fallen in love with money. After all, such a beauty cannot just take care of herself. So, in any case, the girl will only pay attention to a rich and wealthy gentleman who will become a contender for her hand and heart. Bella suddenly saw blood on the boy's hand. He said that he had just injured himself during training. The girl got up and went to look for a first aid kit. The boy asked her to calm down, because it was nothing serious. The Count's daughter told him to shut up and sit down. A few minutes later, he was sitting next to his friend who was treating his wound. She said it was nothing personal. She was just worried about the whole country. Suddenly, he asked if the girl had really given up on entering the medical academy and studying. After all, how skillfully she treated his wound. Even the pain went away by itself, even though the wound was serious. The friend also recalled how she used to play doctor and patient with him as a child. But lately, he hadn't visited her often, so his visit today jolted her out of her thoughts and made her suspicious. Bella replied that she was tired of talking about it with her father, so she thought that she should make a good debut to become popular and build her life differently. The boy warned her that there were a lot of fools around. The young man began to talk about how such ghosts deceive young, naive girls, promising to find the moon and stars for her. Then he turns away, starts an affair, and starts spreading gossip. So now the younger Richmond got down to business. He told her that he wanted to accompany her to the ball and be her date. This proposal surprised the girl very much. She told him that she already had an option. In fact, she wanted to go there alone, so even her first gentleman, who offered her the same, she refused. She just wanted to be able to choose from a larger number of candidates. But Richmond promised that he would just be a bodyguard. After all, many people could be tempted by the fact that the girl had come to the ball on her own. All sorts of bad thoughts could visit the Primrose who wanted to take advantage of her. Bella was not at a loss. She said that she was ready to castrate such a scoundrel personally with her own hands for such an attempt to abuse her. She also asked if a surgical knife would be suitable for this purpose. The boy said she was a real psychopath. The Count's daughter asked if he really wanted to keep the girl company, and Bella asked if he would say that she was his mistress. Then there is a chance to go with her. The Marquise's son asked if she really thought he would say such a thing. Bella simply said that she could use a surgical knife even now. The young man was frightened and was about to leave the room from this crazy woman. But he had no other choice. Richmond had to say these words. The girl was satisfied. The humiliation of this boy gave her great pleasure. Even demons were not capable of this. A few days after the girl's meeting with her childhood friend, the maids were preparing dresses and clothes for Bella. Even the best designers from all over the country arrived to serve the Count's daughter. Mrs. Richmond personally brought guests for the girl. The Marquis had refused to become her companion, but now she began to help the girl in every way possible before her debut. However, Bella was not happy with this help. Lily thanked her friend for helping her in every way possible. The woman did not know the whole truth about what her friend was doing behind her back, and Mrs. Richmond asked what her friend would do without her. And Bella was laughing quietly. She believed that a woman could not become her companion, so now she is trying to become influential through her power over designers and influence. Richmond's company was not pleasant for her. Suddenly, the Marquise noticed beautiful shoes on the girl. She asked who they belonged to and who gave the young lady this beautiful thing. The girl replied that it was Mr. Geoffrey, the son of the Marquis of Richmond. The woman asked when it had happened. But right now she was interested in the fact that the girl had forced her son to take his mind off his training, which he was constantly using to calm himself down. She was not sure about this, but she was interested in the fact. But Bella didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary. But now it was an expression of attention from an old friend. The woman did not want to talk any further, but now it was time to start trying on outfits and dresses. So now she was getting ready. Each dress fit Bella as if it had been made especially for her. The designers and fashion designers were very happy to learn that they had pleased the young lady in her choice. So now she is ready to pose in every possible way. The girl herself thought that she could have stopped at the first dress. After all, she liked it so much. In her past life, Bella didn't often take the opportunity to try on a dress and attend a ball or evening. But the next dress did not leave such a pleasant feeling. It seemed as if the girl's organs were going to burst. She could not even breathe. The maids tried to save the young mistress. Bella was seriously thinking that when her mother became empress, the warlord would ask her to ban corsets by official order. Around the poor girl, the Ditchasiner constantly walked, praising her creation. The woman said that in this dress the girl looked just like the Countess of Collins when she was Her Highness. The designer stopped there. She realized that she had said too much, and that a scandal could now break out. The girl praised Lady LeBlanc. She said she had long been a fan of hers. The Marquise immediately reacted to this. She warned that there were still designers to be chosen. The next applicants were also quite beautiful. Their reputation ran ahead of them. A girl asked her assistant if the dresses offered by the designer suited her. She answered that they were very good. The choice and assortment was very large, from a lavish ball gown to a mythical dress of some goddess in the Empire style. It seemed that all the dresses suited the Count's daughter. The girl was afraid to exaggerate, but it was true. Eventually, the fitting was over. The mother praised her daughter. She was indeed a beauty worthy of an emperor or other great ruler. Lily asked Bella if she liked anything. The Marquise watched this carefully. She was waiting for the girl's answer. The Garf's daughter replied that she was actually very happy, because almost all the dresses really suited her and were worthy of her beauty and good looks. But she didn't like any of them. By doing so, the girl manipulated the Marquess's wife very much. She was ready to snap at the young rascal, but she kept her emotions in check. But she did not allow herself to be manipulated right now. Catherine asked why the young beauty had done this. She replied that she simply didn't like any of the options. They were all beautiful, but they didn't have something really worthy of a first debut appearance. The Collins family was also known for their extraordinary taste in dresses and jewelry, so not every young lady could please them. Bella thought about saying that only her father was fooling around with his mistress, but she kept quiet. Bella added that the debut is a very important event for the daughter of a nobleman and aristocrat. Therefore, it is necessary to prepare for it carefully. That's why, in most families, the responsibility is assigned to the head of the family who is in charge. Lily asked her friend to calm down. After all, she was just very tired. She just wanted to rest and relax, but she was not trying to make Katrina angry or offend her. The Marquis's wife assured her that everything was fine. However, for her, Lily remained a naive fool who was being taken advantage of by everyone around her. And for everyone around her, Katrina let it be known that she would give Bella a few days to think about it. Lily was tired of her annoying friend. She believed that she shouldn't sacrifice her own well-being to make someone else feel good, so she said she needed to get away from it all. The girl and Katrina were left alone in the room. The Marquise began to say that when the girl decided to find another fashion designer, she made a mistake. After all, the woman would not just leave her alone. Bella asked why the woman was so confident. The woman replied that she was ready to destroy the reputation of the boutique that would help her choose a dress for the Count's daughter's debut. And everyone is well aware of this and will not dare to oppose her. Tilda came to Katerina's aid. She asked the girl to apologize to the Marquess. The maid assured her that Bella simply did not know anything about current fashion because she spent all her time reading books and did not go out. The Count's daughter silently stood up and hit the maid. She reminded her of a lesson she had not learned well. After all, Bella would not tolerate instruction from some maid. She was going to punish Tilda severely. Katrina stood up and said that the girl's behavior was vulgar. At this point, the girl's patience ran out. She asked if it wasn't more vulgar to behave in such a way as to walk around naked in other people's houses. Katrina was already tired of the woman's reproaches and suspicions. The woman took a swing at the poor girl, but she did not have time to strike. Rage filled the Marquess's gut, but a call from a friend stopped her hand halfway to Bella's face. Lily returned just in time to stop the attacker. The Count's wife demanded an explanation of what had happened in her absence. The woman was outraged by the behavior of even her best friend in her home. Katrina began to make excuses, blaming it all on Bella's unworthy behavior. The girl was too rude and naughty to her. Lily asked her daughter if it was true. She replied that she couldn't help herself. Lily apologized for her daughter. The Marquise was pleased that she had once again humiliated her friend, who certainly did not even suspect, because of her simplicity, that her husband was cheating on her with this gadget. But her triumph did not last long. As a mother, she had to reprimand her daughter, but in no way a person who was not even tangentially involved in the upbringing of other people's children. So the Marquise had to apologize to Bella. Lily added that they were also gossiping about the woman's involvement in her daughter's hand burning over a bowl of stew a few days ago, but the Countess was not going to listen to her. She said that her friend should not be in the house in her absence. In the palace, the Marquess's mother was the princess's nanny. The woman took great care of her ward, while the daughter of the Viscountess herself was relegated to the background. That is where the enmity towards Lily could grow from. Throughout her life, Katerina herself had no other option but to be the princess's friend. The girl was constantly jealous and following in the tail of her lucky friend, so today's scandal put everything in its place. Lily asked Tilda, the maid, if it was true that she already had a grandson. She replied that it was true and that it was a great happiness for her. The Countess said that the servant should rest and be with her grandson and daughter. The landlady said that starting tomorrow, the maids would not have to come to work. She kicked her out of the mansion because she had been taking advantage of Katrina's cover.